As Halloween approached, the small town of Maplewood was buzzing with excitement. Children eagerly planned their costumes, and adults decorated their homes with cobwebs and skeletons. However, this year, the holiday coincided with the town's mayoral election, adding an unusual twist to the festivities. Mayor Richard Hargrove, a well-groomed politician with a charming smile, was running for re-election against his longtime rival, Clara Thompson, a fierce advocate for change. The election had become contentious, with both candidates making bold promises and accusations. As the town prepared for Halloween, the campaign reached a fever pitch, with debates held in the town square and campaign posters plastered across every corner. On the night before Halloween, Maplewood hosted its annual masquerade ball in the town hall. It was a tradition that allowed townsfolk to let loose and enjoy themselves while wearing elaborate costumes and masks. This year, the event was particularly charged with political energy, as both candidates planned to attend. Clara arrived first, dressed as a fierce warrior with a mask that highlighted her determined gaze. She was greeted with cheers from her supporters, who believed she was the candidate who could finally bring real change to Maplewood. Meanwhile, Mayor Hargrove, adorned in a classic vampire costume with a flowing cape, worked the room, flashing his charismatic smile at everyone he met. As the night progressed, the air grew thick with tension. Conversations turned to politics, and whispers about the candidates filled the hall. Some attendees found themselves caught between their loyalty to Hargrove's smooth talk and Clara's passionate pleas for justice. In the midst of the celebration, a group of friends, Sarah, Tom, and Emily, decided to investigate the election further. They had grown tired of the political games and wanted to uncover the truth behind the candidates' promises. As the party continued, they snuck out of the hall and headed toward the town library, where they hoped to find more information. "Let's see what we can dig up on Hargrove and Clara," Tom suggested, flipping through a stack of old newspapers. "I have a feeling there's more to this election than meets the eye." Sarah nodded, her curiosity piqued. "I've heard rumors about Hargrove's connections to some shady developers. If we can find proof, it could change everything." Emily pulled out a dusty file from a cabinet, revealing old articles about Hargrove's previous campaigns. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a headline, "Hargrove's Promises, A History of Broken Dreams." The article detailed how many of Hargrove's campaign promises from his first election had never come to fruition, leaving many residents disillusioned. As they continued to sift through the archives, they stumbled upon a shocking revelation. "This is it," Sarah exclaimed, holding up a faded document. It was a zoning proposal that Hargrove had pushed through, allowing a large corporation to build a shopping center in a neighborhood that had long been a community garden. This explains why he's been so keen on keeping the developers happy. Just then, a noise echoed through the library. They turned to see a figure lurking in the shadows. It was Clara, her warrior costume now looking even more imposing in the dim light. "I didn't think anyone else would be here," she said, her voice low. "What are you up to?" Tom hesitated, but then decided to be honest. "We're trying to get to the bottom of this election. We think Hargrove is hiding something." Clara stepped closer, her expression serious. "You're right. He's not the man he pretends to be. I have evidence that he's been accepting bribes from developers in exchange for promises of favorable treatment." "Do you have proof?" Emily asked, intrigued. "I do," Clara replied, pulling out a USB drive. "I managed to get access to some of his emails. They detail meetings with developers where they discuss deals that benefit him personally. If we can release this information before the election, we might have a chance." Just then, the power flickered and went out, plunging the library into darkness. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, panic rising in her voice. "Stay calm," Clara instructed. "We need to find a flashlight." As they fumbled through the darkness, they could hear footsteps approaching. Hargrove's voice rang out, smooth and confident. "What are you doing here, Clara? Shouldn't you be at the ball, enjoying your last night of campaigning?" The friends pressed themselves against the wall, trying to remain hidden. Clara's expression hardened. "I could say the same to you. Planning to scare the town into voting for you?" Hargrove chuckled, his laughter echoing through the library. You think you can take me down with your little USB drive? You have no idea who you're up against." As he spoke, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room. Hargrove was standing in the doorway, flanked by two men in suits, his campaign aides. "I'd advise you to drop this, Clara. You don't want to make enemies of the wrong people." With that, Hargrove turned and left, leaving Clara fuming. "We need to act fast," she said, urgency in her voice. "We can't let him intimidate us." The friends agreed to help Clara, realizing that their curiosity had led them to a much larger conspiracy. They spent the rest of the night working together, preparing to release the information before the election. As dawn broke on Halloween morning, the town was abuzz with anticipation. The friends coordinated a press conference outside the town hall, where Clara planned to reveal the evidence. The morning sun illuminated the autumn leaves, creating a beautiful backdrop for the day's events. As the townsfolk gathered, Clara stood at the podium, her heart racing. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "Today, I want to share some important information about the man who is claimed to represent our best interests." With trembling hands, she plugged the USB drive into a laptop connected to a projector. As the screen lit up with the incriminating emails, gasps echoed through the crowd. The evidence was undeniable. Hargrove arrived just as Clara revealed the final piece of information, a direct link between the mayor and the developers who had betrayed the community's trust. "This is outrageous," he shouted, attempting to regain control of the situation. "This is nothing but slander." "Is it slander when the evidence is right here?" Clara countered, her voice steady. "You've sold us out for profit, and it's time for the people of Maplewood to take a stand." The crowd erupted into murmurs, many in shock at the revelations. The tide began to turn as people rallied behind Clara, their anger directed at Hargrove. As the press conference ended, Clara felt a surge of hope. The truth had come to light, and the community had a chance to reclaim their voice. That evening, Halloween festivities took place, but the mood was different. It was no longer just a celebration of costumes and candy. It was a night of empowerment. In the spirit of Halloween, many attendees donned masks that symbolized the themes of deception and truth. Clara, dressed as a phoenix, represented rebirth and resilience. As the night unfolded, the townspeople began to discuss the election openly, their voices no longer muffled by fear. As midnight approached, Clara stood at the edge of the town square, watching the celebration. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter and camaraderie. For the first time, she felt the weight of the past lifting, replaced by the promise of a brighter future. Tom and Sarah joined her, their faces glowing with excitement. "We did it," Tom exclaimed. "You showed them the truth, and now they're standing with you." "Thank you both for believing in me," Clara replied, her eyes shining with gratitude. "This wouldn't have happened without your help." Just then, a group of children ran by, their costumes bright and cheerful against the backdrop of the dark night. They giggled as they shouted, "Trick or treat," to the adults, embodying the spirit of Halloween. In that moment, Clara realized that the fight for Maplewood was not just about winning an election. It was about creating a community where everyone had a voice. As the first hints of dawn broke over the horizon, she felt ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. The election results would come the next day, but for Clara and the townspeople, Halloween had already transformed into a victory, a celebration of truth, unity, a testament to the power of standing up against deceit.